still have not figured out how to do a YouTube intro. I've tried for a while and it doesn't work for me. Today I am going to film a video of a Tinder story time. This happened a little over a year ago, back when I still used Tinder. And I was like, okay, I thought about this story today and it made me laugh, and I said, I think that this would make a good YouTube video. It makes somebody have a better day or feel better about any experience they had. So it was in October of last year, so 2017. And I just woke up, and I had the night before done a bunch of like swiping just to see if I got any matches, and when I woke up in the morning I had like 2 or 3, and one of those guys had messaged me. We're going to call him, I'm trying to think of something to call him, we'll call him Jay. So Jay messages me and is like, okay, you know, we were joking around all day, and he was talking about how he had been in town for a couple of months. I live in a city where there's a military base, and a lot of my exes were military, and he had only been in town for about 6 months. And not 6 months, like 6 weeks. And he's like, I am looking for like some bomb ass Hispanic food. And I was like, well, you're talking to a Hispanic, so duh. So I told him about my favorite restaurant, and we were talking, and later on in the afternoon he got off of work and we were texting, and he's like, I'm hungry but I'm not sure what I want to eat. And I was like, well, do you want to go hang out at that place? So he said yeah. So he said he would meet me there. I didn't have a driver's license, so my mom took me and dropped me off. My mom was also extremely overbearing and had to say hi to any guy that I went out with, so that was fun. And she said hi to him, and, you know, just asked him where he was from. He was from Florida. She was like, okay, well, you know, just let me know when you're ready to go home, because I'm super weird and I didn't want guys to know where I lived. So I would usually meet them at the place and then have them drop me off somewhere where I could be picked up, so didn't want any creepers following me home. So with that, we go in, sit down, and order, to which the weirdest conversation ensues. I got cut off right there, so I'm gonna try and remember where I was. Oh, so like normal conversation ensues about, you know, this and that, and, you know, where the whole like basic date conversation of talking about where you're from and what you do and what your dreams are, all that kind of whatever. So then we're sitting there talking. He'd ordered a beer, and I was sitting there, and he was sitting there, and he just like got this weird look like on his face, and I was like, well, what are you thinking about? And he's like, nothing, I'm just like a little bit, you know, like we were the only people in the restaurant. And it's funny because I knew the waitresses really well, so they would just like look at me and like look at him and then like laugh, and like they would like say like random little things in Spanish because they knew I understood and that he most likely didn't. So it was kind of weird. So he would just like look at me real weird, and like he would start looking around like being all like, it was weird. And so he's like, no, it's just, I saw this show the other day and I've been super creeped out since then. And I was like, okay, like what show were you watching? And I can't remember what the name of the show was. But he was like, yeah, this dude went on a date with this girl, and she got him drunk, and then like was like trying to get him to leave with her, and then they were leaving, and this van pulled up, and they throw the dude in the van, and they kidnap him, and he wakes up in the hospital, and they've taken like one of his kidneys and like half his liver, and it's like super weird. And I'm sitting there looking at him like, okay, you know. And then like it got super awkward at that point. And then it was like, okay, let's change the subject. Let's talk about something else. So then we started talking about something else, and this conversation started coming up again. And, you know, we were talking and laughing, and our food came. We were sitting there. Well, then, afterwards, we were sitting there talking, and it was like, well, you want to go to a movie? Like, what do you want to do? Like, it was barely 7, you know, still a little early, didn't have anything to do. Neither did he, so we were like, okay, you know. But the more I would talk about, let's go do something, or like, let's go to the mall and walk around, or go to the movies, or the more like uncomfortable he would get. And I was just like, and I go, you're still thinking about this, aren't you? And he's like, a little bit. And I was like, this is weird. So finally he's like, yeah, let's go to the movie. Well, I made a mistake of which movie theater I had looked at, and I got the locations crossed between the movie theater at the mall and one that was like a few blocks away, where the movie was starting in like 15 minutes, whereas the movie that we wanted to see had started like 20 minutes before at the one we ended up at. So that made him even more suspicious. And I was like, seriously, like, there's nothing going on here. If you honestly think that I'm going to do something to you, then you can leave. Because you're just, like, ruining my time. So he was just like, no, it's fine. And it was like, oh, okay, well, and I'm thinking this whole time, like, well, this is definitely one of the weirdest dates I've been on. So just sitting there talking, because it's like there's no other movies that are like, there's a movie that's going to start in an hour, but we didn't really want to see that movie, so we just like walked around the mall for a while and talked. And then I was just like, he's just like, so you want me to take you home? And I was like, no, I'll just like wait for someone to pick me up here. So then we were just sitting there, and he said, well, I'll wait with you. And I'm like, really? You're gonna wait with me? You've been suspicious that I'm trying to like take your internal organs all night, and now you're gonna wait with me in like a pretty much empty parking lot? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, this weirdo. And so called my mom. She came to pick me up, and I get in the car, and she's like, well, he was good looking and he seemed like a nice guy. And I was like, oh, and I proceed to tell her the events that took place, and she was just like, okay, well. I was like, well, that was a fun story. And I was like, yep, that's exactly what it is. It's like, yeah, you meet some weird people on Tinder. But other than that, I thought I would make this video because it's really weird, and I'm sure that people have had weird experiences on Tinder, or you're just watching YouTube and you're going down the never-ending rabbit hole of YouTube videos and you've come across this one. So